know what time it is? Gotcha. Yes! Yes! Get into it. Yes! We're back with another installment of Storytime with Chris. As I always say, you don't have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, max relaxing, chillaxing time, in between time, mean time, ski time, study time, break time, CP time, anytime that you want to hear a highly animated voice bring you wonderful stories of magic, fantasy, science fiction, adventure, and many, many more in between. And music too, which is brought to you tonight by Mr. Ambiance. Go check them out. Like, share, subscribe, show them some love. Hit that bell notification so you don't miss a vid. Mr. Ambiance, MISTER AMBIENCE. Okay, Mr. Ambiance. We love them because they give us copyright-free music that is ambient, that is wonderful, and it gives us the ambiance and magic of story time. Oh. Sorry, one of my dreadlocks was out of my bonnet. Now we are back with the Unicorn Chronicles. I know I missed yesterday's reading. I had a bit of a busy, tumultuous day that caused me to get a bit behind schedule, so I was not able to do an episode yesterday, but I will get us caught up, no worries. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and sit back, relax, and get into this story. Because we're about to meet one of my favorite characters. Actually, two of my favorite characters in the Unicorn Chronicles. Chapter 4. The Geomancer. Kara put a nervous hand on Finder's shoulder. Excuse me.
Show yourself,
snapped Moonheart. Belle moved into a fighting stance. At the same time, and somewhat to Kara's surprise, Finder said with a chuckle, "No need for such dramatics. Listen, whoever you are, we come to the Geomancer on the Queen's business." "Can you prove that?" said the voice suspiciously. Moonheart nudged Kara.
"Show her the amulet."
Fumbling at the neck of her t-shirt, Kara drew forth the amulet that had carried her into luster. Its crystal lid caught a ray of the setting sun. Coiled beneath the lid was a luminous shard of white hair. "That's one of the Queen's 5, said the voice in surprise. "Now do you believe us?" asked Finder serenely. "I suppose I must." As the voice spoke these words, Kara saw some of the rocks beside her begin to shift and change. Within moments, she was staring down at a very, very small woman. "Oh, that is clever," said Thomas appreciatively. The newly revealed dwarf had a high brow and deep-set eyes. She wore a tunic of brown cloth. Her skin was all dusky brown. In one hand, she clutched a short spear. Her head reached barely to Kara's waist. "Follow me," said the dwarf, once she was totally visible. "I will take you to Gamma." Without another word, she started up the hill, her stubby legs moving so fast that Kara and Thomas were hard put to keep up with her. The 3 unicorns, of course, climbed the hill with no problem at all. The Squidgem kept racing forward to weave in and out between the woman's feet until she uttered a burst of angry words and jabbed at him with her spear. He squawked in alarm and scurried back to clamber onto Kara's shoulder. Kara hadn't been able to make out the dwarf's exact words, but she thought she had heard snack somewhere among them. Kara was panting when they reached the top of the hill, but though she had to stand with her hand pressed against her side, she was delighted with the house they had come to. From below, she had assumed it was built of wood. Now she could see that what it was made of, all 4 stories of it, from earth and stone. In fact, from the way the sides merged into the rocky terrain behind it, from up close, the dwelling seemed almost to have grown directly out of the hilltop. Each level of the house was somewhat smaller than the one below, making it look like a stony wedding cake, though not nearly so regular. The main entrance was formed by 2 tall pillars, about 4 feet apart, with the third placed flat across their tops. The door, also made of stone, stood open. The dwarf led the way to the house, which was cool and dark inside. Stepping in, Kara felt as if she had entered the hill itself. Most of the first room was taken up by a stone table, on which were scattered bits of earth and rock of all sorts, everything from clots of mud to sparkling gems the size of acorns. A variety of branches stood a tall, slender pot at one end of the table, some freshly cut, others long dry. "Oh, Gamma!" cried the dwarf. "We have visitors!" "Bring them up," replied a voice from somewhere above them. The dwarf sighed. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Weather changes made my throat a bit scratchy, so forgive me for the harshness of my tone. "Follow me," she said. Then she darted through a door at the back of the room. Kara wondered how the unicorns felt about being inside, about climbing stairs, but they crossed the room with no comment, their hooves tinkling like silver chimes on the stone floor. As they passed through the next door, Kara saw a room that looked like a kitchen to her left. She didn't have time to study it because the dwarf was urging them up the stairs. These were made of stone as well, the steps being very wide and broad. It took a moment for Kara to realize that they were carved directly into the side of the hill. The first flight of stairs brought them back into the open, onto a kind of terrace. Remembering how each level of the house was smaller than the one below it, Kara realized they must be standing on the roof of the room they had first entered. The terrace was about 10 feet wide, with a stone wall at its edge that reached just to her knees. The squidgem immediately leaped onto the wall and began racing back and forth along it. Beyond the wall, Kara could see the valley they had just traversed. The land rolled on, beautiful and wide, most of it covered with forest. She felt a pang of love for Luster's unspoiled beauty and ached again at the thought of leaving it. A gentle nudge from Finder brought her back to the moment, and she realized the unicorns had started up the next level of stairs. Though made of stone like the first level, they were on the outside of the house. They led to another terrace from which the view was even better. "Pretty," said the squidgem happily. They continued climbing. "Stairs," Kara heard Belle mutter. "What a stupid idea." The final set of steps ended on top of the house. The roof was wide and flat, open to the valley on one side. It merged directly into the hill on the other. From it sprouted several poles and narrow towers with a variety of whirling arrangements that made Kara think of tiny windmills. In the center of the roof stood a remarkable-looking woman. Dressed in a flowing robe dyed in deep shades of red, purple, and green, she stood well over 6 feet tall. The way her hair was piled above her head added several inches to that already considerable height. Her smooth, gleaming skin was nearly jet black. She had high cheekbones, full lips, and a broad nose. She was astonishingly beautiful, which was somewhat surprising to Kara, who had vaguely been expecting some wizened crone. "Welcome to my home," said the woman. Her voice was rich and deep. "I am Gamma, the geomancer." She gestured toward the dwarf, who had escorted them up the stairs. "And this is Flensa. She guards me well." Kara noticed that while Gamma's left hand was covered with rings, 4 or 5 to each finger, her right hand was bare. "Guards you from what?" asked Belle. "From intrusion, from disturbance, from things that would distract me from my study and my work." She closed her eyes for a moment and added, "And from delvers, of course." "Yike!" yelped the squidgem, leaping onto Kara's leg and climbing to her shoulder. "Delvers bad, much not good, hacha fooey." "Precisely," said Gamma, smiling ever so slightly. "But why would the Delvers want to bother you?" asked Kara. "Because they are earth creatures. I do not mean," she clarified quickly, "earth as in the world from which you and I, and the unicorns for that matter, originally came. I mean creatures of the soil and stone that make up the world. As my magic is earth magic, there are many things I have that the Delvers would like to possess. Tools, spells, knowledge, things I would rather they not take from me. Now what is it that brings you to my home?"
"We require a reading,"
said Moonheart. "Oh, really?" Gamma raised an elegant eyebrow. "And what would that be for?"
"The child is to return to Earth to fetch her grandmother, Ivy Morris."
The geomancer's eyes widened when she heard the name. "So, the Wanderer is going to return to us at last." She didn't sound entirely pleased at the idea, which surprised Kara. Everyone else she had met in Luster had been delighted at the thought of the Wanderer returning.
"It is the Queen's wish,"
said Moonheart sharply. Gamma bowed her head. "Then it is my bidding." Extending her right hand, the one pair of jewelry, she said to Kara, "Come, young one, let us begin the work." Kara, not entirely sure she wanted to go off with this woman, glanced at Moonheart. At his nod of approval, she stepped forward and took the geomancer's hand. Together they walked to a door at the back of the roof, which led into the hill itself. Inside was another set of stairs, not so wide as the ones by which Kara had ascended. They started down. And about the time the light began to fade behind them, the darkness ahead was lessened by a series of clear glass bowls that sat in niches in the wall. Each bowl was filled with a glowing liquid. As they passed the first bowl, Ngama dipped a forefinger into the liquid, then painted a line of it across her forehead, where it continued to glow. At the next bowl, she did the same to Kara. The liquid was cool and tingled a bit on her skin. After another few minutes, Kara said, a little nervously, "I don't remember these many steps going up." Ngama uttered a low, silky laugh. "Of course you don't. We've gone far below the first level of the house." "Why?" "My magic and my study are rooted in the earth. Therefore, I must go into the earth to practice there." Very deep into the earth, thought Kara as they continued to wind their way down. She tried to count the steps but lost track after the first 100. They came at last to a room, a cave really, crammed with globes, maps, star charts, astrolabes, bubbling retorts, candles with multicolored flames, and pots exuding strange smells. A fire pit carved into the center of the stone floor held a pile of glowing red embers. In the farthest corner stood an intricately carved stone cabinet. Behind its crystal doors, Kara could see shelves stacked high with sticks, stones, and clods of moist earth. A front of each item was a card covered with tiny, precise writing, though the writing was in a language she did not know. Kara had a sense that the cards were labels. "Pieces of reality," said Mgama when she noted the questioning look in Kara's eyes. "These bits of earth are the touchstones of my craft and the source of my knowledge." She crossed to the fire pit and in a single graceful motion lowered herself so that she was sitting cross-legged on the floor, patting the stone next to her. She said, "Come and sit beside me. I must learn many things from you before I can do the work that will tell us from where you should depart." Kara did as the woman asked, imitating her posture. When she was settled, Ngama extended her right hand and said, "Let me see the amulet." Kara hesitated a moment, unwilling to let the amulet out of her grasp, but since the queen had sent her to Ngama, she decided it must be all right. Slowly, she drew the chain over her head and passed it to the geomancer. Rather than look at it as Kara had expected, Ngama closed her fingers over the amulet, clutching it so that the chain flowed down from either side of her fist. She closed her eyes and began swaying slowly from side to side. After a moment, she crooned a soft, wordless song that reminded Kara of the tune Thomas had begun humming earlier that day. Green light began to flow between her fingers, the same green that had shone when the amulet had opened the door to luster. Finally, Ngama opened her eyes. "These amulets contain great magic," she murmured, her voice husky. She uncurled her fingers and the glow vanished. "They hold the power to pierce the walls between worlds, to open a hole from what is to what might be. Now tell me where you need to go." Kara described her home. As she spoke, Ngama asked many questions. After a while, she nodded, then went to one of the globes and began to study it. "You can return to the others now," she muttered without even glancing up at Kara. "This will take some time. Is it all right if I stay?" "Suit yourself, but please do not speak from this point on." Sitting in silence, Kara marveled at the cat-like grace from which Ngama moved around the cave. On a table near the back wall, the geomancer placed several items that she pulled from the cabinet: a smooth red stone, 2 long green feathers, a small bottle of water, and a dried twig. She then took a double handful of dried leaves from a niche in the wall and tossed them onto the embers of the fire pit. Kara gasped as a burst of flame rose from the pit, stretching nearly to the ceiling, but within 3 or 4 seconds the fire died down to be replaced by thick, blue smoke. As the smoke curled up from the fire pit, it coalesced into a perfect globe that began to turn slowly on its axis. Ngama sat before the globe, hands on her knees, staring at it as if all the knowledge of the world were somehow concealed beneath its surface. After a time, she began to chant. A sweet, musky odor filled the cave. Points of light appeared on the surface of the smoky globe. They began to move, slowly at first, then faster and faster. Soon they looked like lines instead of points. More and more appeared, zipping madly over the globe until it seemed to be made of light instead of smoke. Gamma's voice rose higher and higher. Allah Manahaya, she chanted, swaying back and forth. Allah Manahaya, Allah Manahaya, Allah Manahaya, Allah Manahaya, Allah Manahaya. Her body began to tremble. Suddenly, she uttered a shrill cry, then collapsed onto the stone floor. The globe vanished. The embers were quenched. Even the glowing lines on the foreheads went black, leaving Kara in a darkness so complete it was as if the world itself had disappeared. And that is where we will end for tonight. Told you, it's a page. Always leaves you on a bit of a cliffhanger. But without further ado, I will see you all next time. Tomorrow night is Storytime with Chris After Dark. That is specifically for my audiences that are 18 and over. If you are not 18 and over, you should not be watching that video tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And with all that being said, lovelies, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.